Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
I'm Chris Santomassimo, the host of the podcast. You can reach us at thethinkfactory.com to talk about recording your own episode. Today, I'm excited to introduce Kevin Bourquin, who's with Cyber Graphics in Memphis, Tennessee, and Kevin is the VP of Operations at the company. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
Appreciate it. So, Kevin, Cyber Graphics may not be a company that a lot of folks know, but I would love to learn a little bit about you and the company and the interesting work that you're doing on the branding side, and including on brand protection.
So Cyber Graphics, headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee, operate 5 sites across the country: Nashville, Tennessee, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Cleveland, Ohio, and Neenah, Wisconsin. And our focus is on protecting brands in the pre-media space. And so if you kind of look at our history, where we've come from, we were born out of a wide web flexible packaging printer that wasn't getting the service they needed from the industry, and realized they had talent in the organization to generate the graphics and printing plates that they needed to serve that market space. So they spun us off as an independent company. Our family company is the Bryce Corporation, BRYCE Corporation. So anagram of Bryce is cyber, CYBER. So they operate us as an independent company from the late 80s. And in the early 90s, they spun us off as a completely independent company, servicing them, as well as gave us a mission to grow our business and help the industry outside of that. So we now service, the flexo market, offset market, digital, gravure, with high quality separations that give brands and converters alone the ability to deliver what they need to deliver on the store shelf, which is predictable, consistent, high quality, repeatable packaging.
So when you talk about the food space in particular, you got some pretty, specific and detailed legal requirements in terms of what you got to have on the packaging and how the graphics all works, but at the same time balance the branding needs of the customer, right?
Exactly. We work in the space. Salty food, snacks is big for us. Pet foods, over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, candies and confections, and all those have legal requirements from the FDA or the USDA on what they can say and how they say it and where it has to locate on the packaging. And we deal with multinational global brands, but we also deal with some small mom and pop brands that are, developing new products and innovating in the space. And so we have to have the knowledge base of raising those flags when we feel that the graphics and informational content doesn't meet up to the government standards, so they don't get held liable for a recall or misleading the customer. And at the same time, we can balance that with the ultimate brand, right? That's the most important thing, to track that customer's attention on the store shelf or nowadays online. How do you take a package and make it perform in an online retail space, which is becoming an added service for what we do on a daily basis.
And I think as consumers, we take packaging for granted sometimes, because when you buy a product, it's the first thing that you discard, but it's really got a major effect on product selection or consumer behavior when it comes to selecting a product.
We usually, we like to refer to that here as stomach share. So we're given, as consumers walk down the aisles, they're often given 20 to 30 different choices of what they're going to choose. And packaging plays a huge role in how that influences that decision. So it's important for us to work with brands in helping them control their product. And their brand is not just in one packaging space. It's in flexo bags. It's in stand-up pouches. It's in labels. It's in shrink sleeves. It's in folding carton. And all those different processes need to look and feel consistent on the store shelf, where that breeds some level of vision of quality that doesn't meet the consumer's need. And so when you trust a brand protector like Cyber Graphics, what we're doing is working in all your print medium needs, knowing that flexo or offset is just one microsystem of what you're kind of working on, and making sure that we can deliver content, position, content, color, so it all looks the same across that billboard effect on the store shelf. And so the customers know what brands are after. Customers know when they can look and see a package, instantaneously know that it's this brand. That's where my loyalty relies on.
That's the important piece, right, in terms of consistency of messaging and consistency of color and appearance. That has got to be top of mind for a company like yours.
Yes, correct. We're always working with brands to help them understand, set standards, communicate those quality standards to them and their converting partners, and then working with the converting partners to deliver solutions, whether it's measurement technology, quality reporting, different media, different screening, to help deliver and make their jobs as easy as possible to put that on press and run to the numbers, run at high efficiency so they can deliver that product, that converted product back to the brand, and they can get it on the store shelf. Speed to market is extremely important in today's market to deliver what the customer needs.
And people outside your industry, I don't think in all cases appreciate how precise you need to be with everything from coloring to font to letter and how it really impacts the brand. Red is not the same red and orange is not the same orange for everybody. So that's got to be part of your brand protection strategy, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Just making sure that consistency is there.
Consistency's there, understanding what the ultimate target is, what we communicate that target, how we communicate that target, and the industry's done a really, really good job in the last decade of really getting a control of that, whether we're looking at, CXF standards on how we communicate color, how we can embed those in PDFs and have RIPs use them when they proof. We can have ink making systems use those. So there is no ambiguity when it comes to what we're after, what the brand's after, and even pushing that further upstream into the designers. How do they know what colors they're supposed to use and which ones are, how they're supposed to be used and what it's going to look like if they try to do something crazy with all the tools that Adobe and other manufacturers give them to design something visual pleasing that helps those brands excel in that first moment of truth.
Yeah. Now, why do you think brands should really embrace the way that you deal with or develop packaging? Like, what's the magic there?
For us, it's control, right? If in the past we see, I've got my 5 different products, they're printed in different ways at different converters. Well, I'm just going to let that converter handle their particular package. And how that is produced on press and the quality managed. And you're ultimately relying on 5 different suppliers that they're not talking to each other. And they may not even know who the other people are. And what you wind up with is a lack of control, a lack of consistency, and a lack of repeatability. So partnering with a pre-media company that's looking out for the whole brand to deliver that and communicating to the different parties about what's going to go. We have the expertise. Your expertise is in creating something, whether it's a product or a look and feel of a package. Our expertise is tearing that apart and then putting it back together in very concise pieces that we know exactly how we're going to control. We're micromanaging dots and colors and surface screenings and everything that goes into producing a package and then delivering that to the converter so they can ultimately be successful. All that does is introduce speed to market and eliminates costs from the supply chain. And that everybody benefits when that happens.
You hit on something really interesting. I understand repeatability, consistency, brand protection in that regard, but you also talked about taking cost out just because of the consistency, right?
Yeah. So you're talking about less waste, faster make ready, less revision cycles. You reduce the risk of product recalls or product having incorrect information, or even, worst case scenario, having a package design and you can't convert it into a package. Those types of situations, wreak havoc on delivering something to the store. And you think about what brands do, they spend a lot of money on product and packaging before they even get to generate any sales on the store shelf. So making sure it's right the first time is of utmost importance. And doing that in a methodical, high quality, high service way is the only way you're going to drive costs out.
Right. And you mentioned recalls too. When you think about risk management, I don't think people appreciate all the time what it means to do a recall and how expensive it is. And just a minor typo on a package could create the need for a recall. Most of the time, companies are not insured for it either because recall insurance is really expensive and it's not that easy to use. But, absent some kind of insurance protection, it's a really expensive proposition.
Yeah, we don't wish that on any of our customers or competitors.
Right. And I also think that it hurts the brand to have to say that you've got a recall out there on your brand because people wonder,
Exactly.
maybe they don't even pay attention to the fact that it's a misprint and they consider it a quality issue, maybe,
Exactly.
So what are some other brand protection strategies that brands ought to be thinking about besides, the consistency and the repeatability and the protection issues that you guys raised already?
Yeah, so some of the things that we kind of have focused on over the last couple of years is one is round media. So we see, and especially in the flexo space, we're seeing a lot of need to produce packaging that has seamless backgrounds. It needs long run lengths, so we're seeing some of the run lengths of some of the big global brands are running massive quantities of package, and if you want to keep that consistent, we need some media that can deliver really super long runs. We've got packaging that uses caustic chemicals for glues and varnishes. We've got packaging that uses really coarse pigments to deliver something on the market shelf that draws the attention. And so we've invested heavily in the last probably 5 years in laser engraving. So we're using a high-powered laser to engrave a variety of elastomers to deliver ink or some treatment to film, board, whatever it is, to make the package function better in that space. And what we're finding is some of these medias, do a really good job at delivering this package. They run a really long time. We're seeing, 3 to 5x run lengths compared to traditional photopolymer plates in the flexo space. In terms of cost, when you're talking about seamless backgrounds and seamless print, they're a fraction of the price of having a set of gravure cylinders made. It's reducing your tooling that you would need on press to mount plates. It's no mounting cost going to press. We're really seeing an explosion in this market space, and being able to deliver this product with really high-end lasers. The medias are really, really good. They're starting to develop different compounding that allows us to engrave really small elements, both dots and surface screens. We're doing, like I said, we're doing stuff with printed electronics, flooring, wallpaper, package printing, package coating, forms and putting glues down for different things. So it's a really, really wide market, and with a product that fits really well in that space. Being able to giving that to a brand, and have them run a package and get millions upon millions of impressions with little change to that package as it runs is an important thing.
People don't appreciate how hard it is to print on a circular thing, right?
Yeah,
especially when it's a hard medium, right?
Yes, that's one of the great things about Flexo is it can print on anything, but it also creates some challenges on what you can come up with in terms of design and its visuals. Can you translate that into a manufacturing process?
Right.
And every package is different. There's not, we're not creating widgets. We're creating, unique pieces of art, as these designers like to call them, and being able to reproduce those in a manner which we can control is, we got to use the tools available to us. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those tools. This laser engraving on elastomers has opened the doors for us to pull business from gravure and do some things that we hadn't been able to do with traditional polymer. But on the polymer side, what we're also seeing a big move into is using LED lights and exposure. So for a long time we've been hitting polymer with light. We've been using backlight exposure units, and those bulbs degrade over time. And we have to manage that. They have to manage that process. The bulbs are never as good as the first time you turn them on. So we're often balancing a manufacturing process with time and energy and figuring out how that influences what the plates have to offer. At the same time, those bulbs are coated with chemicals that are being banned by some country governments. They're becoming less and less available, becoming more and more expensive. And so as we've kind of looked at what the market's been doing, LED is something that we firmly believe in. We've been an LED supporter. We've done some sort of LED exposing at Cyber since about 2010. Got in production 2012, 2013. And now I would say about 85% of our photopolymer manufacturing is done with an LED exposure. Just installed actually last week our third LED exposure system. And what we're seeing is like 50% reduction in variation of our photopolymer relief. another 30% variation in the highlight dot formation, and about a 15% reduction in our midtones. And what we're seeing that is it helps our process be more consistent. We're having less internal remakes. It's reducing the risk of us of producing a plate that doesn't live up to our high quality standards. But at the same time, we're delivering a more consistent plate to our customers, which is allowing them to come to color faster. It's reducing their make ready. It's allowing us to put things on the plates and print on the packaging on the presses that are being able to deliver a higher quality graphic that fits the original design intent, the original expectation of these designers. And that makes everybody happy. When you're trying to manage expectations of an idea to a reality of a package, these tools are helping us really do that. So, LED exposure has really helped us jump to the next level and really look at flexo packaging that was for a long time looked down on as a printing process. But now it's becoming a premier process because of what we're having, all the different variety of things we're having to print on. And that's what we're printing on is changing, right? We're printing on folding carton and materials. We're printing on papers. We're printing on plastic films, but plastic is bad. So we're putting in new materials, new compostable plastics, recycled plastics, PLA films and all sorts of other things. And we've got to get ink to stick on them. And that's a challenging thing to do. And this LED technology and some of the advanced screening that are coming into the market from companies like ESCO and Hybrid, are allowing us to, put ink on film on a very reliable, predictable, consistent basis.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate what you just described, which is how do you get the ink to stick? It's, again, it's packaging. You assume it's easy to do. Ain't so easy, especially in a weird format or with a weird medium that people aren't used to.
And everything's unique too.
No process is the same, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin, to maybe round out our circle and close today, you talked a little bit about these large producers, the global brands that have to have long runs and the issues there. What about the other side of the spectrum? What does an up and coming brand need to think about as they maybe go to market for the first time in terms of creating the packaging that's really going to attract attention and get, distinguish them from the crowd, so to speak?
Yeah, I think they've got quite a unique challenge, but I think there's some solutions in the marketplace that are helping them. So, your small brand, your startup, obviously we're talking about printing stuff in Flexo. It's a manufacturing process. There's graphics and consumables involved in making that happen. And there's some sort of mid-run quantity that just financially, all printers are going to know in order for them to make money, this is how few they have to produce to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And often that number is higher than what the brand really wants to buy their first time out of the package. They're really kind of market testing this as they kind of enter the space. And so two things. One is digital print using new digital technology, which enables, really short run packaging and figuring out how that fits in your ecosystem, whether you're producing, 1, 10, 100, 1,000 and growing, that as the technology gets better, and making sure that digital equipment still meets the same needs in terms of safety, food safety, inks aren't contaminating the food and odors aren't contaminating anything, making sure that still meets that space. So digital's kind of opened the door for a lot of small brands, open the door and get some movement on their packaging, which you often see the big guys doing less and less innovation on their side. And they are investing money into these companies as small incubators to see if they can grow and then buying those companies and rolling them into their brand. So it's kind of created a nice little ecosystem for these small brands to play and find niches in consumer behavior, especially as our generations change and who's shopping in the stores. That's neat. The other side is fixed pallet printing. We've done a lot of work over the last 10 years on getting a asset set up where it's got a single set of process conditions and you're just changing the graphics and not changing the manufacturing. So making that asset more stable in terms of its changeover and its ability to combo stuff together and run multiple items together to drive down min run quantities, reduce costs, make it more sustainable. There's been a lot of talk from a lot of companies, and some big companies have moved all their business to EG, but it's also allowed small companies to combo stuff together and reduce those min run quantities and get it done in Flexo. And we need tools to make sure that if we've got fixed pallet printing, we're no longer allowed to make changes on press. Like, you're no longer designing on the press anymore. You've got to design and do all your alterations in pre-press. And that's when you need a company like ours. You need tools like remote approval, remote color approval. So you're not shipping proofs back and forth. So like Remote Director and ICS Color, having a tool that allows us to take a known press profile, apply it to a PDF, and show it to a customer online and know and guarantee that they're calibrated color on screen, and they can cycle through those changes a lot faster and get that pushed through the supply chain a lot faster than relying on shipping FedEx proofs around. Because what we've seen is coming out of COVID, the idea of this remote work and not being in an office and having multiple people in multiple locations, we're shipping more proofs or shipping proofs around different locations just to get color approved, where we're going to try to harness a new tool like a Remote Director to help direct that color approval and control it where we couldn't control it before on the monitor. So we're really excited about using that with some of the small brands, and brands like Kraft have embraced this as well, which is really good to see a big global brand understand the importance and the benefit they get from something like this.
That's great advice, especially for an up-and-coming brand, no doubt. So we really appreciate it. This is, I hope other people find it as fascinating as I do, because there's so much thought and there's so much planning that really goes into an effective execution on a brand strategy. And I think you outlined it really well today.
Yeah. That's why I love the grocery store. You go down there and you just realize all the work that goes into that. At the end of the day, it's there to do two things, attract attention and protect the product. And we like to add our protection too, is protect the brand. So they're successful when they are in the store and they do attract that consumer's attention.
Probably takes you a while to get out of the grocery store because you're going to critique every single package up and down the aisle. Right? It
does. My wife won't grocery shop with me anymore because I spend too much time looking at packaging and not making the decisions that she wants me to make.
That's funny. Well, listen, Kevin, it was great talking to you today. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear more about cybergraphics and all the great work you folks are doing. So this is terrific. We'll hope you'll join us again as you continue to grow and do interesting things, for sure.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the opportunity.
For those who came in maybe in the middle, just want to remind everyone that this is the Think Factory podcast, powered by OGC Solutions. And today we had the privilege of talking to Kevin Bourquin, who is the VP of Operations at Cybergraphics. Where can folks find Cybergraphics on the web?
cyber-graphics.com is our website. Check us out. Come look. We'd love to help you in whether you're a printer or an agency or a brand, perfecting pre-press, protecting brands.
Terrific. Well, thanks again for the opportunity, and we'll sign off for today and see you next time.
Thank you.